never thought that I would be the one who turned you down and you disagree. We've been on and off, you were never mine to keep. So many times that I have cried when you left me without even saying goodbye. I was longing for you to say you love me back. Yes, I fell in love with you and tried my best to make you love me. And now that you say you want me, oh, my answer's no. Yes, I fell in love with you and tried my best to make you love me. And now that you say you want me, oh, my answer's no. I never thought that I would be the one who turned you down and you disagree. We've been on and off, you were never mine to keep. So many times that I have cried when you left me without even saying goodbye. I was longing for you to say you love me back. Yes, I fell in love with you and tried my best to make you love me. And now that you say you want me, oh, my answer's no. Yes, I fell in love with you and tried my best to make you love me. And now that you say you want me, oh, my answer's no. never thought that I would be the one who turned you down and you disagree. We've been on and off, you were never mine to keep. So many times that
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Jerry. Hi, Geoff. Good evening. How are you?
Good, good. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing great. We started the podcast with some I hope some nice intro music, and it's Friday, May 22nd, 7 o'clock. Time for your daily weekly cycling news.
Yep.
So I think we prepared a couple of nice topics to discuss, and a lot is happening actually in the cycling world. How was your week, Geoff?
It was good. Yeah. I have a follow-up to my crash that I had last week.
Okay.
So I don't know if I told you, but when I crashed, I broke my fork on my mountain
No,
bike.
no. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, the headset came loose, and I came home and I was taking it apart, and I noticed a crack in the steer tube. So I was able to lower the headset below the crack so I could still ride it, just very cautiously around.
Right.
And I went out for a quick spin the other day, and it wasn't shifting well. And I just, decided to change the shifting, just adjust it. Wasn't thinking why it would shift differently.
Yeah.
Got home, and the derailleur was bent, and I cracked the carbon frame on it. So
Oh
that
my
crash
gosh.
cost me a fork and a rear derailleur. I was like, oh boy,
Wow, that's no peanuts.
expensive. No, I know, expensive. Two carbon things cracked right in one crash.
Wow.
Um,
And,
yeah.
and when you
How about
you
your
were
weekend?
just bunny hopping basically a tree stump, and you slipped and you fell, but you probably weren't going that fast. But can you see how with a stupid crash, a lot of damage on your shoulder and then also on your bike? So that's
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you're right. I wasn't going that fast, but I just crashed on the derailleur side,
Mm-hmm.
got up and didn't think about really checking it. But anytime something's off with your bike, you should really give it a wash and then look at it and make sure everything's good because that's what I did. I washed the bike, got all the mud off of it, and then I noticed the crack.
Yeah.
So not
Yeah.
good.
No, not good. I guess that's one of the things with carbon. When it cracks, and you're often looking at quite an expense to get that repaired. Um, yeah, my week was uh, busy at work. Got my rides in the evening. Did some racing on Wednesday evening, just a short race on Swift.
Yeah.
That went well, and yeah, really looking forward to this weekend, long weekend over here in the US, Memorial Day, right, weekend, and so we have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to get on our bikes. Do you have anything planned, cycling wise?
Uh, no, just plan to get out and do some long miles. It is supposed to be rainy tomorrow, but then I think Sunday and Monday will be nice. So hope to be on the bike both of those days.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How about you? Do you have plans?
They're doing another race tomorrow. The Dutch Diesel cycling. Eric set up a recurring Saturday morning race. It's 10 laps of the New York, basically the Criterium LaGuardia, and it's up and down, up and down. It's a nice race, some good intervals, and so I'm looking forward to that. And then Sunday I have the back to our roots, and then Monday. You never know. Maybe you and I can get some outside miles in. I would be looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
So um, I suggest to kick it off with one topic where what we discussed also last week, the Everesting. I think there is there was a surprising development not long after Phil Gammon took the Everesting record, basically. So let me switch to my to the correct screen, and there you are. And let me get commercials. Yeah. So this is an article which is describing why is everybody Everesting. So that's nice. And then further down, it talks about Phil Gammon and setting the record for at 7 hours 52. Like we mentioned, I think he has 3 YouTube videos on that on his record attempt, which he got back then. It's really funny, and the latest one actually talks about you can tell it better than I do. You watched it, I believe.
Right. Yeah. So it was a 3-part. It was getting ready for it, and then the first part was setting up the ride, and then the third one was actually doing the ride and the conclusion, and then they had a summary where he and his buddy talked about the whole effort. And in the time that it took for him to edit the third video, his record had already been taken. So as soon as he posted it, people were like, "Hey Phil, you don't have the record anymore." He's like, "Yes, I know." He's a little agitated by it. So he had a follow-up video today saying, "Yes, I know it's out there," but he was expecting someone like Sepp Kuss to come out and try it and take the record, because he feels like there's some world tour guys that could really clobber the record, you know.
Right.
So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what the reaction is.
Right. And these efforts are amazing, and then everything is recorded, right? Everything is on Strava, and they put it on YouTube. And but Phil Gammon was doing 300 watts for that steady 8 hours, going up a climb which was, I believe, 11%, right?
Right.
And so that's just, I don't know. My FTP is 310. I can imagine doing that for 8 hours. It's impossible, right? It's just for me physically not possible to to do that. So that's this very, let's say, league of their own. These pro and ex-pro riders.
It's interesting too. Like both Phil and Keegan Swenson, who has the record now, after their attempt, they said they learned a lot through the effort, and they would do things differently if they went back and did it. So there definitely is a learning curve to it. And like Phil said, he didn't time his eating right. You know, he should have been doing things differently. And at the end, he was throwing up at the top of the climb, because he just said for the last 3 hours, he felt like he had to get something up and he couldn't get it out, you know. And even Keegan was saying the same. Like, he just told his mom, like, put something in my hand every lap when I'm coming up, or once an hour, I'm sorry. So even if he didn't feel hungry, you know, he had to put something into his system.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to get something technical in check, but there's also a nice segue to Whoop and a Whoop strap, right? He's talking about that too, I believe.
Right.
Is that's Phil, right? So what was he had a. I'm trying to get the my Whoop app on the screen. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, he said after the ride, he and his buddy kind of did a debriefing, and he said it was the lowest recovery he's ever seen. He had a 9 on his Whoop strap, which is
which is really low. Yeah, so let me go to the screen. Here we are. So that's me. So this is what I'm showing on the screen now is my my Whoop app. So you see it here, and you see it on the screen. This is the let me see the small Whoop strap. So we talked about it last week a little bit, and I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to have a look what it is. So this is unfiltered Gerry's physical state in Whoop. So there are multiple screens. So I wear this strap basically, I don't know, 23 and a half hours per day, and it measures your heart rate, it measures your sleep, it measures your heart rate variability, your respiratory rate, and a couple of other things. So when you look at this screen, it says, okay, your sleep performance was 98%. So I needed close to 8 hours sleep, and I got 7.75 of an hour. So that's pretty good. The one thing that I have to say about Whoop, which is really nice, and I think it's I love the way they word their let's say the advice that they give you. It's always positive. So that's special. When I'm thinking, okay, I didn't get enough rest, I think I don't know. I swear at myself and think, okay, you stupid person, you should have got more sleep or anything like that. But they always have a positive way of telling you you should have gotten more sleep. So this is pretty good. And you then go into the data. So I swiped up, and this is basically my previous week of sleep that I got. Like I said, I had a busy week at work. And I wanted to make sure that I got enough sleep. So I disciplined myself and got in bed early, which resulted into a pretty good score sleep-wise. So you see the sleep performance on the left here. So when I click on the respiratory rate, this is the number of times that you breathe in and breathe out. And it changes from night to night. So when it would go up, I think the range is between 12 and 20. So that's about the range that most people have. And you see that I'm, let's say, hovering around 15 breaths per minute. And then again, you have your sleep measures here. When I go to the other screen, my good sleep resulted into a pretty good recovery, right? So that's green. So it's primed to take a high strain. So this is what Phil was looking at when he looked at, okay, what is my score? So his score was 4, right, or 8% single digit, and it's really based on a combination of your resting heart rate and your heart rate variability. So your resting heart rate or your heart rate is the number of beats per minute. And the heart rate variability is the time difference between your heartbeats. So it's not every second. So the one beat is 0.9 seconds, and the other one is 1.1, and then you have a 0.8. So that variability, that's what they measure here. And combining these numbers, they're able to say, okay, how well are you doing? What you see on the screen now is, and that's something that I haven't figured out yet, and I want to know why that is the fact that I have a 97 and it drops to 56 to even a 45. So how do you correlate that? So on Wednesday, I had that race. Does the 45 have to do, you see the Thursday, with that race? Probably yes. The other thing that I know that impacts me personally is when I drink alcohol. So I hardly drink any alcohol. That evening I had a rum cola. So here we go. 45 heart rate variability. So lower is less good than higher. But you see these big swings. So let's say the huge swings, I haven't figured that out completely, but having not enough sleep and, for example, alcohol or being dehydrated, not enough hydrated, absolutely has an impact. And then you have your resting heart rate over here, which fluctuates. Mine is always fairly low, so that's good to see. And then you have your day strain. So I really looked at, okay, going really hard. So the highest that I can get is about 18, 19 when I do a long, hard effort. So this 14 was a 40-minute race on Swift, and I got to a 14 score looking at the strain. This is the average heart rate over the week. And you see, including that race, 64. And the Sunday, I had a longer ride, so my heart rate was elevated for a longer time. So the overall average for that day was 71. And then obviously you can also measure how much calories you burn based on my height, my weight, my age. This is so average, I don't know, male 2000 or 2200. So this is how much calories you burn for that given day. So it's pretty cool.
Has this information changed your sleeping habits?
Yes, it does. I know I need around that 7.5, 8 hours, probably even a little more, to feel comfortable and to combine busy work, social activity, right? Riding my bike, to really maintain that. If I'm not getting to that amount of sleep, I have to start making choices of, and that's then probably going to be putting in a little bit less effort or duration in my bike rides, for example, in order to balance that with my other activities. So yes, I'm trying to do that. But with, for example, Dutch diesel cycling, many of the rides are on, let's say, West Coast time. So when I join one of the later evening rides, for me, I get off the bike at 10:30 or even 10:45, and when we do a big effort at the end, I'm just wound up. I can't sleep for a while because you're just full of adrenaline and your body is like just recovering from that effort. So that's then a choice that I make. I'm going to do that late evening ride, knowing that it will impact my sleep, or do I do something else? Final thing that I want to show is this is your sleep. You see how detailed it is over how many disturbances do you have, the sleep efficiency, again, your respiratory rate, and the fact that overall I'm a light sleeper, right? It's I've known that for a longer time, even without the Whoop strap. But your REM sleep and your deep sleep, those are two important measurement points to do that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting to keep an eye on, and in the future we can dive in a little bit more on the science behind heart rate variability, sleep, and what the impact is. But I just wanted to show everybody the Whoop and the Whoop strap and how the app looks. And you get weekly reports, you get monthly reports, and it's even more detailed. And I guess that's also what you're paying for. So the Whoop strap itself isn't that expensive. The only thing that you need to change out now and then is the strap itself, because it gets dirty. and but the analytics and let's say the continuous updates, because they do deliver updates quite often. That's what you pay for, and you pay around $30 per month for the subscription.
And how long does the battery last on it?
I would say 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
One really neat thing is that it does broadcast via Bluetooth to your by computer, or for example, to Swift. So I don't need to wear a chest strap to measure my heart rate when I go out cycling. So this thing on my wrist is a little bit more comfortable than the chest version. So that's pretty good. Yeah.
Speaking of heart rate, did you see that Wahoo came out with new heart rate straps?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just reinstated my Zwift account last week,
Okay.
and I saw that new heart rate strap came out, and one of the selling features is you can have multiple Bluetooth connections at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. And then I got on Zwift, and I was like, oh, that's right. There's only a limited amount of Bluetooth connections you can have to your Apple TV.
Right.
And then I had my iPad with the trainer road on there, so I couldn't use it for both. I had to decide which one was which, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this, I think this is the perfect use case for that, right? Where you could be recording to multiple devices at once.
Yeah, and
So I think it's
to your point of the Apple TV only having three Bluetooth connections, and one is for your remote, so you have two left.
right.
Swift does have you can connect to your phone via the companion app, and that kind of relays the information to your Swift session. So instead of for example, connecting the one channel for your trainer, you can do your heart rate via the companion app, and it still will end up on Swift. So you have a free channel on your Apple TV. So you can combine that if you want to. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't tried because that's interesting. I haven't tried the Tax Neo because that was one of the advantages of a kicker, is that the kicker can broadcast to multiple trainer road and Swift at the same time. I haven't tried that yet with the Tax Neo. Maybe Eric knows. I'm not sure if Eric's still on, but I think he's. I think Eric does only Swift. So, but I'm curious to find out if it's going to work for both. I'll test it at some point.
Right. Yeah, I got a new Quark for my cross bike, and it does Bluetooth cadence, but it's a separate. It's considered a separate Bluetooth device. So then I was setting up my kicker, and then my Quark, and then the Bluetooth, and then my strap, and the cadence, and it was like too much, and it was kicking the other ones off. And then I figured out, oh, okay, I can only have two at once, So hopefully they'll update the Apple TV and allow more connections too.
Right. Okay. See, Eric says I'm not sure. Well,
Right.
we'll find out, Eric, if that's the case. But yeah, so we still need to do that one video recording on figuring out Swift. It's and a couple of the folks that I now see in the chat, they are very active in the different messenger groups, and these are often topics that are being discussed, and you almost need to have a degree in Bluetooth and connectivity, and because there's so much that you can do connecting all these devices together, and again, it's very interesting, but there is absolutely some ramp up time needed in order when you get to Swift for the first time, or trainer road, and you have a smart trainer and all these devices. So we'll absolutely spend some more time on that soon. Switching gears, so we we released our podcast with Eric last Wednesday, and Eric is online in the chat. But I hope that everybody listened to the podcast. We most certainly enjoyed speaking with Eric. I think there were a lot of real good takeaways from a coaching perspective, and structured training, the discipline that you need to have in training, choices that you need to make in order to balance, just like I mentioned, the balance, all the different things that you do in your life. What are a couple of things that you took away from the interview, Geoff?
Yeah, I really liked the part about training the juniors with mountain biking,
Yeah.
to keep things safe. I thought that was great. And I think it's a good way for kids to get into cycling because you're outside, you're in the woods, it is safe, it's fun, right? And you see huge improvements, right? You get on a road bike and you're like, wow, I increased 10 watts on my FTP. You don't really notice it, but you get on
Yeah.
a mountain bike, you're like, I climbed that hill, So that was interesting to hear that he focuses on the mountain bike side for the juniors.
Right. Yeah. No,
How about
absolutely.
you?
Yeah, that was absolutely good takeaway, and as I mentioned, the structured training, I believe in that, and I like the kind of venturing off in the 80-20% rule, right?
Mm.
Talking about that, making let's say your rest days very easy and your hard days very hard, and how do you balance that? And we spoke about that, so that was a good conversation with. We each had our own opinions on that, so that was good. Yeah, um, I really like that podcast. There's an appetite for more, at least for me. So Eric, when you have time in the future,
Mm.
um, more than happy to join us again.
Yeah. And what we didn't mention on the podcast was Eric lives about 10 miles away from where I used to live in California. So
Yeah, yeah.
had I still been there, we could have been riding outside together.
Yeah,
It's kind of
exactly. So there was the other
crazy.
side of the mountain, of the hill, right? What you said, that you used
Right.
to ride around that. So it's a small world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Mount Diablo. I could see it from my backyard and he could see it from his, but from different sides.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so then prior to that, actually, we recorded and Eric says I'm up for that. Great, Eric. We'll get on the schedules. And prior to that, we actually recorded our podcast with Kim Geist, right? We were very happy, very honored to be able to speak with her. 2 times world champion, won 32 national titles, a number of Pan American medals, and let me. Oh. So that podcast will be released on Wednesday. Again, that's something that obviously we highly recommend. It. Would you give the listeners a little bit more context on our interview with Kim?
Yeah. So also the video was posted last night onto the YouTube channel. So if you want to see a quick 7-minute clip of just kind of the highlights from it, it's a good teaser for the whole interview. But we had an hour great conversation with her. She gave us a lot of background into how she got into cycling, having just phenomenal results at a very young age, and being on a professional team that she couldn't sign a contract because she was young enough to still qualify for junior nationals. And so she didn't want to disrupt that, which was neat to hear that from her side. She also had some great advice for people that are uh, targeting races that are getting canceled or postponed.
Yep.
So she really went into that and had offered suggestions and what she'd experienced. So I think it's very pertinent to the COVID and what we're going through now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a nice, let's say, segment in the interview, and what I personally really liked was talking about riding and racing on the track. So her home track is in Trexeltown, T-Town, and we actually heard from the Dutch Diesel group that multiple people that were riding on that track really loved that track, and we talked with Kim about track cycling, and that it is a shame that it doesn't get that much visibility, because it's really fun to watch and to go to, and right, compared to road racing, maybe a crit. Obviously, you see these guys and girls coming around many times, but in a velodrome, you see them all the time, and there are so many different fun disciplines that you can ride with the speed, and it's yeah, we spoke about that, and I think that's a great intro to track cycling. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can even remember back my college cycling team in Texas. We qualified for track collegiate nationals, and we sent a group of 5 guys, put them in a van. They drove all the way to Pennsylvania from Texas, and it was the mecca. Everyone knew like that was the track in the United States. And they went out there. I don't remember the results they got, but they just said it's a whole different world. You know, we were used to a little small track outside of Houston, and they said up there it's just everyone lives and breathes the track. You know, it's part of the culture.
And it's only an hour 15 minutes away here. I've never been there. I felt really embarrassed because and I had to own up to that, and I was in preparing for the show. I was telling you about when I was, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. My dad used to take me to the Olympic Stadium in Amsterdam, and it had a velodrome, and there were journey races, so cyclists behind these small motors going around really, really quickly, and yeah, I have very, very good memories about that, seeing that and the excitement around that, the smell of the motors, and the cyclists going around in such a high speed. It's it's great,
Right.
a great evening out. I see a comment from Rosemary. She said we should do a lowland cycling night out at the Lehigh Valley Velodrome on a Friday night. Yeah, we absolutely should do that.
Absolutely. And they have a fitness park right across the street. It's a closed course.
Okay.
They hold races there. It's nice. It goes all the way. I don't know how long it is, but it meanders through all these fields. It's a great little course. And she even mentioned that in the podcast that when she got injured, she would go up and ride that course to get back in shape because it was a closed course. It was safe, you know.
Yeah.
But in the spirit of the N+1 for our podcast, as soon as we were done with the interview, I started looking online for track bikes. and I decided what I would get if I was going to get one.
I look too. And so I hope that my beautiful wife isn't listening in, but that's I think that's a really good investment. Not too expensive, right?
Right. Yeah.
It only has one gear, basically, so that's
right. No brakes.
No brakes.
It's cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get carbon. So, but again, that will be released on Wednesday, and a great interview, and then next to that, we learned yesterday and today that and we won't spoil it yet. But we have 2 other guests committed to the podcast. Somebody from the Netherlands and somebody from
it's
Arizona,
Bentonville, Arkansas.
Yeah, exactly. So both guys are pretty big on YouTube. So more on that soon. So we're also very excited to have them committed to the podcast. So. one other person that we would like to have in the podcast. And just as a very brief note, and let me switch my screen again, is our friend. He doesn't know it, but we call him our friend Lawrence Tandem. So this is another plug for his Dirty Kanzelled ride. So Dirty Kanza, that's a gravel ride, 200 miles. The event is growing and growing and growing. So if you weren't in the podcast, or sorry, in the live cafe last week, we spoke a little bit about that. So I highly recommend going on Instagram, following his adventures in preparing for Dirty Kanzelled. I shared a YouTube video. It's really well produced and gives you a good idea about what they are doing. And I see that a lot of, or some people in the US are actually joining him, and he has the rules. You have to write it individually or by somebody else, but obviously honor the rules and regulations, especially looking at COVID-19, and so everybody needs to be safe. But plan your route, do 100 or 200 miles, follow these rules. And I see a lot of traction. I see a lot of people actually joining that and finding these gravel roads all over the world. So again, it's I think these initiatives. This is the video. These initiatives are great. I love it. It's really, again, showing a certain aspect of cycling. This is gravel racing, but just by not being set back by the current situation, but just setting a goal, preparing for that goal, and going for it. And I think it's great that he's doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the video is quite entertaining too.
Yeah.
And there's some similarities between the Everesting and what he's doing too, because they plan a lot of their nutrition for the day, but then they always have a bailout. Keegan wanted just peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on white bread.
Yeah.
And he said he just couldn't take any more goos anymore. He's just like, And his mom started handing him peanut butter and jellies. He's like, okay, I can get these down.
Yeah.
And not to spoil anything, but Lawrence has a flask that he says you always have to carry a flask because you never know.
Yeah, exactly. He has this anecdote about what's it? The American guy who won the Tour of Spain.
Right, Chris Horner.
Chris Horner, yeah. So he basically won that on Snicker bars and Coca-Cola. That's how.
That's right.
So that's yeah, I can see that happening. So absolutely, yeah. Oh, okay. And Rosemary said that on the velodrome they sell beer, and John Anders emphasizing the N+1. So yeah, that's good to know.
Right.
So one other thing to talking about people, former pros. One of the things that is going to be released next week is a new documentary for Lance Armstrong. I think it's a 30-for-30 on ESPN. So that will be interesting. It's advertised as okay, no more secrets, no more. I'm going to tell everything, and I don't know. What do you think, Geoff? What's your opinion about that?
Well, I think that his teammates kind of towed the line for a while. They just were quiet. I mean, they went and did when they were subpoenaed, right? They went in under oath. They told the truth.
Yeah.
But the only teammate that really came out was Tyler Hamilton, and he exposed everything. And Floyd Landis to a certain degree, but not like Tyler. Tyler came out and just told everything. So to hear Lance tell it from his side, I think will be it will be eye-opening. I think people in the cycling community know a lot of the details,
Right.
but for everyone else, they're going to just see how crazy it got. It just it wasn't his results didn't match what the human body can do without doing something, something like that. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, mixed bag. So I, because I was and always have been so into cycling, the Tour de France was always just so an important period during the summertime, and I basically devoured everything Tour de France. So also the 7 victories of Lance Armstrong, and without going too broadly into it, from a athletic point of view, realizing later that everybody was on the kind of on the same playing field. I still think it's a marvelous display of strength, endurance, planning, everything that comes with that. On a personal level, I think a lot of people were damaged the way he approached it. But I don't know. At some point, somebody also needs to get the chance to kind of get even, or not get even is not the correct word, but find some peace there and live their lives on normally. But again, I think the book from Tyler Hamilton, I read it, and it does this. So that book I would highly recommend. So if you like cycling, if you kind of want to understand more about what happened even prior to the documentary with Lance Armstrong, which is airing Sunday, May 24th, and then there is another one the next week, 9:00 Eastern on ESPN. But like you said, he already disclosed a lot. And one of the things that really stuck with me is that they had a guy on a motorcycle basically following them and bringing them the things that they needed, right? So the blood that they needed to get back infused, other things that were illegal. They had a motor guy following them basically across France, following the Tour de France. And I guess it has to do with what happened with the Festina team in, I believe it was 98, where a doctor was caught, and he basically had a whole pharmacy in the back of his trunk. That was the really first big, let's say, fines on doping, and that spiraled off in a lot of activities around doping. So that was one of the things. The moto man, the motor guy, who basically followed U.S. Postal, almost like a courier, delivering them whatever they needed at that moment. So that's and you mentioned it, Tyler Hamilton describing the feeling that he got from taking those performance-enhancing drugs, and in detail describing how they did it. It's pretty amazing that they basically got away with it. It's it's not something easily that you do, or right. And there's absolutely some risk to it also.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he describes how they were blood doping and how they would take out a pint of blood, and then the next week they would take out 2 pints and put 1 back in.
Yeah.
And they'd take out 3 pints and then put 2 back in. And then they would get up to where they had 7 bags of blood, 7 pints of blood.
Yeah.
And then that's what they would use during the tour. But I mean, they were just constantly switching out blood and thinking nothing of it. He even said they pretended like the U.S. Postal bus had a mechanical, and they just stopped on the side of the road with the flashers on, and Moto Man came in, gave them their blood bags,
Yeah.
they taped them up on the walls, they got their transfusion.
In the bus,
and they
right?
took them
Yeah.
up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they kind of did it out in the open. People just didn't realize it, you know? You see a bus with tinted windows and
Curtains closed,
you know.
right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they would hide the needles in Coca-Cola cans and crush them and
Yep.
throw them away. So it's yeah, it was a well thought. But I'm curious to find out what it is and if there is if you learn anything new. If he's, I don't know, is he going to really call out people by name, or that worked with the team with him on that? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm going to watch anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, Tyler Hamilton had a good quote. He said, "The better you get at cycling, the worse you get at everything else in your life." I don't know if you've experienced that, but I've had moments where I'm riding really well, but I can't sleep, and I'm agitated, and my wife's like, "What's wrong? You know, you're not paying attention," and other things in your life suffer. You know, you just get too lean, or you can get too fit, you know, and it just affects everything.
Yeah, and that's true. You're always on the edge of you push yourself to the edge of what your body can tolerate, what your mental state can tolerate, what your, let's say, social environment can tolerate, and it's constantly a balancing act, and yeah, it's silly at points, right? Because I'm not going to be a world champion. You're probably not going to be a world champion, right? So why do you push yourself so hard, right? Why do you like that, like doing that? And studies have been done and books have been written about that, but it's an interesting topic.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah.
interesting topic to go into. So let me see. We're at 45 minutes currently. I do wanted to quickly look at the one of the things that happened earlier this week, and many people use the tool Strava. Strava making a decision that what they're saying is, and it's we have a blog post on the website. We're betting on our athletes, and that's a quote by the founders of Strava, the owners of Strava. And what they will do is some of the free features, so for the not the subscription version, they will actually move it to the paid version. So there is some on social media and some conversations going around, and like with many of these decisions, people saying, okay, that's it, I'm not going to use it anymore, and so there are many different opinions on what to do. My personal opinion is that, especially now, it's getting more and more competitive. I think with COVID and cycling itself, whether it's bikes being sold, online platforms growing quickly, people going out on their bikes, and everything around it, including the software that you use. I think from a strategic point of view, this is actually the right thing to do, right? If you kind of don't safeguard the core of your tool, and it's being eaten or go eating, right? It's at some point they will be bought by a bigger company, or they simply stop existing because that there will be others with a bigger market share. I think Strava is heavily dependent on how you use the tool. me personally, I use it for the community aspect. I like to see how everybody is doing, registering their ride, responding, giving the kudos, the different groups that you have on Strava. I can't find that, or it's too limited when I use Garmin or Wahoo or Map My Ride, or it's a much smaller audience. That's what I like about Strava. What do you think, Geoff? What's your opinion on Strava and the decision that they made to?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of when I became a paid subscription user, and I'm thinking it was probably 9 years ago. I started using the free one, and then it quickly said, well, you can use structured training, you can find your fitness and freshness, you get automatic FTP updates if you go to the subscription. And I was really going after the mass series at the time. I figured, it's a minor investment to use the subscription.
Right.
So that's when I started, and I've been with them ever since. If you compare it, it's $60 a year is what they're charging. Something comparable on Training Peaks is $199. And Training Peaks isn't on your Apple Watch, right? It's not on all these other platforms. If I go to the gym, I'll just start up Strava on my Apple Watch and record it there.
Yep.
So it does take into account that. Even going to Disney World, I was like, I want to see how far I walk, so I recorded on Strava.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the things, right? If it isn't on Strava, it doesn't exist, right? It didn't happen.
Right. I'm trying to set KLM's going to Space Mountain. But I know they're getting a lot of blowback for it, but I think it's understandable that they want to cater towards their subscription people, and they want to build new features for those. So you can't keep giving them things away for free. At some point, people need to, subscribe and support these platforms.
Right. Anybody on the chat have an opinion there? Are you using Strava? Are you going to keep on using Strava? Or are you going to say, okay, I'm going to another tool for me? It doesn't serve my purpose anymore.
A feature that I don't use often, but is very helpful. Like when I was going to do my 100-mile ride a couple weeks ago, I was like, what was that route that we did 5 years ago? And I could quickly find it through my calendar. And then I was able to export the GXP file and load it onto my Wahoo.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, just follow the breadcrumb, and it took me right to that exact route.
Right.
So things like that. Like, okay, that was worth me. It was worth my money to not have to go out and create some route or try to figure it out on some other platform. Couple clicks, download, boom, it was done.
Right. Yeah, and Eric just said nothing is for free, and I agree, right? You can, like I said before, the survival of the company is also important. So, and I don't think it's too big of a change between the people that were using the free version or the paid version, looking at how they use it. And I remember way back when I had a Polar heart rate monitor on my wrist. It came out of the running world. I was using that to register my rides. And obviously, I had some really, really nice rides with my Polar, and I can't find it anymore. I don't know the login. I can't find it anymore, and I'm just bummed by, like, I would have loved to have that registered. As soon as I got my Garmin with Strava, I was pretty much set, and everything is in there. To your point, right? You can go back so many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
And for me, the fitness freshness was I was using that probably 4 times a week whenever I was doing the Chasing the Mid-Atlantic Super Series, just to see, am I still getting stronger, or do I need to take a break? And it's at that level. I mean, any kind of data that you can get is so helpful. And the fact that it's just recording it in the background, you really don't have to do anything. Just go ride with your computer.
Yeah.
Look at the results later. I think that's worth $60 for me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spoke about that also in the podcast with Eric, right? The TSS or the Training Peaks has similar. And Eric spoke about another tool. I forgot the name, but which kind of did some trend analysis. So you could kind of look in the future where you were trending, if you would keep on that pace or that level of training. So let me see. I think we have one topic left to close it off, and that is the UCI calendar, and it feels like it's like almost changing per week now. But the good thing is that there is a calendar. It's starting roughly in August. I sat into a webinar from the USA Cycling, and that was for event organizers, and they are very hopeful that they can do it. They really are exploring, let's say, all possibilities to organize events, but still many events are being cancelled. And earlier today we got an email from PA Cycling, which is the organization for all the Pennsylvania cycling events, and what they basically said is that we have written off the race season, so the road race season, and they might want to do the state championships, but and I guess that's the same for the mountain bike, right? It's near and dear to your heart, Geoff, but it's kind of in lockstep with the road season. Do you have any insights there for the mountain bike series?
Yeah, there's a Facebook page for the Mass Series, and all the promoters are saying we're still tentatively going to have our race. We'll let you know as soon as we know. And one by one, they're being canceled or postponed.
Yeah.
So the first one was supposed to be on May 31st, and because we're not hearing any updates, they're just saying it's going to be postponed. So yeah, it is difficult to not know when that first race would be. As we spoke earlier, I think everyone's going to have a big cross season. Because it would be that may be the first available events for us, right?
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. Everybody is. Can you imagine coming to one of the cross events, and in your division, in your category, there are 200 guys lined up, all packed really close together in the starting pen. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen, but I think a lot of people are looking forward to do something like a race, whether it's triathlon on the track, the road, what have you. And again, it's setting goals and making sure that you have something to work for, to keep fit from a physical, but also from a mental point of view, right? And one of the things that athletes or people who like to exercise push themselves so hard is that they have those goals that they can work towards, and they need it as a exhaust valve or to kind of balance it with busy work or other things.
On the plus side, I had to stop by a local bike shop to pick up some CO2s. And the manager was like, Geoff, it's crazy. We can't keep any bikes in stock. And there was a guy ahead of me, and he was like, I need a mountain bike. And they're like, well, what are you looking for? He's like, just give me anything in my size. And they wheeled out a bike that was like kind of pink, like a little fuchsia to it. And he's like, you have any other colors? Like, we have one that's green. He didn't even pull it out. The guy's like, I'll take it. Here's my credit card. He didn't even know how much it was. I mean, it's like a $1,500 bike. The guy bought it sight unseen. And they were like, well, do you want us to set it up tubeless? And he's like, I'm riding around the neighborhood with my kids. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I just need the bike.
Yeah.
Because I think people are looking at the summer and thinking, like, what am I going to do with my kids? And so they're buying new bikes, and you're not going to go down to the beach, so might as well invest in some bikes, right?
Not going anywhere on a let's say destination trip, right? So they might have some money to spend, and they're spending it on bikes, and that's there was a nice article in the New York Times also talking about that, is that most big brands, but also the big box retail type of stores, they are completely, especially in the segment below $1,000, they're completely sold out. There's nothing available. So to your point with the guy buying that bike of 1,500, he probably went to the Walmart, he went to the whatever, to any of these stores, nothing available anymore. And so that's good for the cycling industry. So maybe next year there will be a lot of cheap bikes out on the market. Right.
You can tell the guy was torn. He really wanted that bike, but the pink was like just holding him off.
Yeah.
He said green. He's like, I'll take
I'll
it.
take it. Yeah, that's right. That's the only thing. So, but looking at the screen and at the Pro Tour, if that's going to happen, it will be a very exciting, at least for me and for others also, very exciting. Basically 3 months, right? August, September, October, with just week after week after week after week, big races, and I'm hoping that it will happen. But yeah, we'll have to see. And if it's going to happen, it will be nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jolanda makes a good point. That's actually another thing, is that and a lot of repairs.
Yes.
So many people are bringing in their bikes that had been sitting there for probably years, and they are bringing them in for repairs. Yeah, that's an excellent point. So the bike shops, not only the new bike sales, but the repairs are also through the roof. But again, if you think about our, let's say, mission statement, get more people cycling, or people cycling more. If there is one small benefit of what is happening right now, that's happening. So hopefully people will stay on their bikes and learn to appreciate it, and make that part of their way of living, basically. So yeah. Okay. Anything else, Geoff, for you?
No, I think this is a good solid hour. Next week we'll be able to talk about the 30 for 30. Yeah, so I think we got a lot to talk about next week as well.
Absolutely. I'll make sure to add the different links that we used, except for my personal Whoop page. I won't disclose that. But I'll add that to the chat and the link. And people that have been listening, if you know any good topics, or if you maybe even want to dial into the Friday cafe, feel free. And thanks everybody for watching and listening. Geoff, have a great weekend, and we'll speak during the weekend.
All right. Thanks you too.
Okay.
Bye everyone.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.